everybody. I hope you're enjoying the story so far. It's time for chapter 7, which is called The Mysterious Photograph. Now, I know that I've stumbled over a few words along the way, but sometimes reading is difficult, isn't it? And especially reading out a long piece, a long chapter. So excuse me if I stumble over any of my words, and I'll do my best. Here we go. Chapter 7, The Mysterious Photograph. Ellen inspected the photograph in the morning light. It was brown and cream and curled at the edges. She assumed it must have been black and white once, but had faded over time. The picture was of a garden. Lights were strung up across leafy trees. Pretty flowers grew everywhere. There were lots of people in the garden, all doing different things. Ellen looked in amazement from one to the other. At the centre, there were two people waltzing. A man and a woman looked into each other's eyes. Another man sat further back watching the dancing couple. Ellen would bet that a moment after this photo was taken, the dancing couple had kissed. She was glad it was just a picture so that they couldn't. She hated all that kissing stuff. She wondered who the people were and where the beautiful garden was. At the left-hand side of the photo, there was a woman, her face turned away from the camera. She looked as if she was clapping from the way her hands were held up in the air. Her dress was in mid-sway and her beautiful hair tumbled over her shoulders. Ellen bet that she wouldn't have a Frankenstein fringe if she turned around. Most strangely of all, she could see someone mostly hidden underneath the table. They appeared to be trying to grab something tiny, which might be a hen pecking at the ground nearby. It seemed a very peculiar thing to be doing at a party. Who would do something like that? Oh, it came to Ellen in a flash. "I want to tell you about my hen collection," the candy floss on legs had said. Ellen scrutinised the tiny piece of face she could see. Yes, it had to be her. Ellen congratulated herself. She'd always fancied being a detective and had been told by lots of people that she had an inquiring mind. She'd been told by lots of other people that she was easily distracted by irrelevant questions, but she preferred the first opinion. She ran her fingers over the slanted writing. How was she going to find where the treasure was buried? It might be at the bottom of a glassy pool. It could be buried deep under the sand on Blackbeard's Bay. Perhaps that was how the bay got its name. Ellen felt the hairs on the back of her neck prickle. She would have to try her best. She would also need help from someone who knew the island like the back of their hand. There was only one person who could help her, and she didn't really want to ask him, with him being so pompous and everything, but she couldn't see she had a choice. Pulling her fringe down as far as it would go, which wasn't far, she crept across the landing to check that her grandmother was still asleep. The old woman lay there, her hair falling across the pillow like sea waves, her breathing soft and steady. She wouldn't be awake for hours. Excellent, Ellen thought. Plenty of time for a bit of detective work. Ellen stifled a yawn. She was tired from her nighttime adventures, but nothing was going to prevent her investigations. The morning was crisp and bright. The tangy smell of the sea was salty strong on the air. Cobwebs held heavy drops like diamonds, and spiders busied themselves with repairs to their homes. An upturned umbrella flapped and scraggled in the breeze, its metal skeleton caught by a branch like a colourful bird wanting to fly. The sun cast a lemony light over the mess the storm had created. Blackbirds hopped along the path, scavenging for food, and gulls swooped in arcs across the fresh, clean sky. Ellen wasn't sure where to find Rowan. She didn't fancy the forest and didn't want to relive their lighthouse path yet, so she decided to try the beach where she had first met him fishing. The storm had dug great rivulets in the sand. Water trickled down them to the waves. Large clumps of frothy foam blew about as if someone had added washing up liquid to the sea. Smashed crab shells and pincers were strewn all over the beach, and big clumps of blue and green netting had been washed ashore. Ellen jumped the tiny streams and collected a few purple mussel shells. A crow dropped a shellfish onto a rock and dived down to eat the fleshy insides. Miraculously, the boy was in exactly the same place on the rocks as before, Captain Beaky at his side, as ever, with his mouth full of tiny fish. The boy was staring at something through binoculars. "Hello," she said shyly, half afraid he would be nasty to her again and tell her off for making a noise. "Oh, hi." He pointed out to a rock exposed by the low tide. "Cormorant. They hold their wings out like that to dry them." Ellen looked at the big black bird, wondering why everyone here was so obsessed with birds, though she had to admit the puffin was fascinating. She asked casually, "I was just wondering if you could help me with something." "Is it repairing the damage from last night? I'm very good at fixing things. The telegraph wires have fallen down in Aberglad, and a tree blew into one of the windows on Winkle Cottage. Neris is really annoyed. We were lucky the lighthouse didn't snap in two, the wind was so strong." He saw the alarmed look on Ellen's face. "Joke. Lighthouses are circular so they can take more of a bashing from the storm. Was it brilliant, or what?" Ellen wondered how much she should tell him. It was interesting. He seemed satisfied with this. They both watched the cormorant hold its wings high up to the sun. The cormorant wasn't entirely boring, Ellen decided, as the water ran off its back in crystal twinkles. Captain Beaky hopped about as if he could hear her thoughts and approved. "I just wondered," Ellen went on, "if you were any good at understanding poetry?" "Of course I am. I'm absolutely brilliant at it, when I can be bothered." He didn't even lower his binoculars. "It's just that it's really important, and..." "Why?" "Well, because, just because, that's all." Ellen tried to keep her voice light. She didn't plan to share her fortune with Rowan when she found it. He was interested now. He let the binoculars hang from his neck. "Because what?" "Well, it's not really any of your business." "Well, I'll just go then." He turned to scramble over the rocks away from her. No, wait. Okay, as long as you promise not to tell anyone." "Of course I won't." Ellen wondered if she could trust him, and then decided she didn't have a choice. She took the photo carefully out of her pocket and showed him the reverse. His eyes lit up with excitement as he slowly sounded the words out. "Growing life and magic true, of beauteous lights of fire, love's treasures then will come to you, deliver heart's desire. Blackbeard." He read the signature and then stared in astonishment at Ellen. Blackbeard was a pirate. "I know that." Ellen wished she hadn't asked for help. "Anyway, it's not important at all. It's just one of those things." "You made it sound pretty important before. I think it's kind of a treasure map. There are lots of old stories about this island and treasure." The boy was too sharp. "Look, it might lead to something and it might not, okay?" Ellen replied. "If you could tell me where this place is, or who these people are, we might have our first clue." "I don't know any of them," Rowan said. "None of them?" Ellen was dismayed. "If you look carefully under the table, I think that I met this woman in Aberglad." Rowan studied it. "Sally! It's her!" He jumped. "And this in the background is Captain Evans. You can tell from the way he's scratching his chin." Ellen snatched the picture. He was right. When she looked very closely, she could see that it was a much younger Mr. Evans. She was quite cross with herself for not realising straight away. "That's his boat now. Let's go and ask him about it." Rowan picked the puffin up gently and put him in his pocket so that only his clown-like face poked out. "Okay, but don't show him the rhyme or he'll try to get the treasure first." Ellen was always told that she could be bossy, but she liked to think of it as having leadership skills. Like I would be that stupid, Rowan said. He'd want to take all the good stuff himself, and it should just be shared between the two of us. Ellen bristled, but she decided she would fight about it with Rowan when they actually found something. "Captain Evans!" Rowan shouted. "Ah, it's able seaman Ellen and able seaman Rowan," he smiled. "What a lovely day for sailing, if you fancy it." On another day, Ellen might have wanted to go for a glide across the beautiful azure water, now that she had been brave enough to go out once. Today, the treasure was far more important. "Thank you, Mr. Evans," she began. "That's Captain Evans, if you don't mind." He winked. "Obey the rules, able seaman Ellen, or I'll make you walk the plank." "That's able sea woman Ellen, if you don't mind," Ellen retaliated. He creased up with laughter. "Oh, fair play, of course it is. I stand corrected." "We're just wondering if you know who these people are. We can see that one of them is you, so we thought you might remember this party or something special about it." Ellen stopped herself from rambling on before she sounded too suspicious. She held the photo out to him, but kept tight hold of it in case he turned it around, and added, "Not that it's important or anything." "Oh, no, it's just a rubbishy old photo and we're a bit bored, that's all," Rowan yawned. Ellen stretched her arms in the air as if she too was ready for bed. Rowan and Ellen exchanged glances. They were partners in crime. Captain Evans took a long, slow breath in. "Oh, I was quite the handsome young man then, wasn't I?" Ellen and Rowan exchanged glances again. "That was a magical afternoon. Your grandmother cast a spell over everyone there." "My grandmother?" Ellen asked, confused. "Of course. That's your grandmother and that's your grandfather." He pointed to the couple dancing. Ellen could hardly believe her eyes. "And of course, this is your mother. Able seaman, able sea woman, Ellen." Ellen looked at the woman clapping in astonishment. She was about to ask lots of questions about her family when Rowan butted in. "How interesting," he said in an uninterested voice. I wonder where this is taken," he asked as if he didn't really care about the answer. Captain Evans tutted. "Young people don't use their eyes anymore. That's the garden at the Lanterns. It's Ellen's grandmother's garden." If Ellen's eyes had been wide open before, it could have come out on stalks now. This beautiful, light-filled, well-tended garden was that dump of a yard at the back of her grand's house. Oh, she couldn't believe it. "Your grandmother gave up on a lot of things when your grandfather was lost at sea." Captain Evans looked forlorn. "Thanks very much." Rowan snatched the photo out of Ellen's hands and ran off. "Yes, thank you," Ellen said politely before running straight after him. When she caught him, she grabbed him roughly by the shoulder. "Oi! Where do you think you're going?" She tussled the picture out of his hands. "It's an acrostic, Ellen. I noticed it when Captain Evans was holding the photo up to his face, and we could only see the back." He shook all over with excitement. "I don't care what it is. You don't run off with my photo." "Stop whinging and look, Ellen. We did them in school. The letters at the beginning of each line spell out a word. See for yourself. G, growing life and magic true. O, of beauteous lights of fire. L, love's treasures then will come to you. D, deliver heart's desire." Ellen looked at the first letters. G, O, L, D. They spelled gold.